Hello, everybody. This is the Abstractionist. This is the pick a card that you have been waiting for. um, so enter Red Room. This is your pick a card reading, your wound space in 2023. It's just an overall theme of it. I'm just gonna adjust this slightly. Yeah, so there's that. So there's two piles, 1 and 2. I'm gonna flip this over, give you the theme, the orphan, the prayer. And these are the two piles to pick from. Okay, so let's just zoom in a little bit, I guess, for you to see. And yeah, we're gonna go back to that and continue with the reading. So, pile 1, the orphan. Now, I will say for pile 1 that I was picking cards and I just felt like when it came to this card, it was like so difficult to pinpoint like the energy, and that was kind of interesting. The second one, I kind of felt like I was going to do like pile 1, pile 2, pile 1, pile 2. And like for most of the piles, I ended up having to pull pile 2 first. And I don't know why. It seemed like that one was kind of easier to deal with than this pile. So there just may be some fastidious like nature to this, your wound space energetically. And with the orphan, it could be an idea of like consumption. If there's a void there, like an emotional void in your life, psychological void, psycho-emotional, psycho-spiritual, psychosomatic void, it may feel that whatever you're looking for, needing is never enough. Either you never get it fulfilled or you reach a milestone thinking that what you sought out to achieve, once it's achieved, will sustain you and nourish you, but ends up not doing that. So I would look into that. So it could be childhood issues, it could be childhood childhood issues, childhood abandonment. It could be being overlooked. It could be just not having needs met or met kind of in a way that wasn't truly aligned with you, what people thought you needed versus what you really needed. And you may not have been, if you're seeing a really small hand here, you may not have known how you needed to have your love given to you, given that being a child, you can't express it generally as much as you can as an adult, meaning that the vocabulary to kind of process and walk us through it is less. Doesn't mean that the way children communicate is any less potent or important. It's just, I think adults always want you to talk on their level and they don't ever move down. And so it's really hard for a child because you're expected to talk up at someone else's level to express your needs. And that doesn't always translate well, right? So there's that. So the tarot card we got is the Queen of Swords. We have Peacock, Assessing, Earthworm, which is kind of funny because it matches how that looks over there. Wish Fulfilling Gem. We have Green Geographer. And we have Vengefulness. So your wound space in 2023 may have some repressed anger regarding how it was treated, or you just have some deep-seated and deep-rooted hurts from childhood or from some space, and you're working through that anger, right? So you're working through the anger, you're working through that need to fight back, and you're fighting through the needs to want to protect yourself or feeling like you have to protect yourself. So with the Queen of Swords, you may be someone who likes to protect themselves via verbal attack, right? So if someone says something to you, you have to clap back, you have to speak your mind, you have to be harsh, you have to prove to them that you mean business, that you're not playing around, that you aren't someone to fuck with. Because as an orphan, you may have been fucked with a lot. And what I mean by that is just like emotionally played around with. You could have been bounced from house to house. You could have just had not your needs not met, expected to give your needs up in the face of other people, things like that. And so there may be a lot of weight that has been placed on you. And your active revenge would be to get all of that off or speak your mind. It's like when in the movie when the person who was wronged lashes out at everyone and finally gets to say what they want to say. But because it's been so long and it's been so much, they end up going perhaps too far in the movie, and they say things that can be really hurtful, and it could be really low blows. And it's because you've had to take the high road so many times that when you finally do get the chance to stoop low, you really stoop low. So your womb space would be focusing on that emotion. With Peacock, you maybe feel really kind of like happy that you were able to do this, happy that you were able to like piss on people and shit on people. You may have felt like it's your turn now to do this stuff. It's your turn now to figure out, how best to, I don't want to say undermine or undercut, but to deal with people who have dealt with you in a certain kind of way. And I do think with this Queen of Swords, there is this vengefulness really there. I have these ideas because I'm in my weight loss journey now. I'm like planning to do gym and stuff like that. And when you're bigger and you lose weight, I think for some people it crosses the mind that the people that rejected you, if they come crawling back, you'll reject them and you'll be nasty and you'll be the person that is hard to touch, sort of like the main character energy but gone amok a little bit. And so you may be very proud to shit on people, or really proud and overly boastful and overcompensating perhaps of how well you feel, how good you're doing, how great your life is compared to everybody else's. Like you're above that, you're beyond that. But inside you may still feel really small. Inside you're dealing with a lot of displacement, I think. And it really is something that you have to work through. When the assessing part, you really do have to kind of look forward, keep going forward. And I would say assessing your behavior, assessing if it's in proportion to what is happening, because if you're very sensitive with this, you could grow things out of proportion, right? And so that could cause you a lot of issues. It also kind of long term hurts your ability to see long term, to see that long term you can move past things, to see that long term you might want to keep some of the relationships and connections, to see long term that you can forgive people. And it may be with this Queen of Swords outside of the realm of possibilities, or you thought, because this is pretty close to like the King, right? Because the King, I feel like, would be an absolute no. There's no forgiveness, there's nothing, there's a huge boundary. With the Queen, I feel like there's a little bit of being willing to hear someone out. And I think with the assessing, you may be someone who, with your wound space and what you're feeling, be willing to hear people out, but it's from a distance. You will probably always maintain some sort of distance with them. You may always have that boundary, and you just may assert it a lot more going forward. I do think you need to look at your emotions, look at particularly where you want to lash out and be vengeful, and prove yourself, particularly with your words, cutting people down, making them feel small, because that's how you have felt, and working through that verbiage, that verbal kind of mechanism, that verbal need to communicate in such a harsh manner. With the wish fulfilling gem, I think your truest wish is to just be seen for who you are, someone who's intelligent, straightforward, honest, someone who has a lot to give other people, because the Queen, I do think, has a lot to give other people, but has boundaries and doesn't want them crossed. Not someone who's overlooked, not someone who can get the scraps, not someone who is easy to get rid of and just discardable and expendable, and a part of one of the chess pieces that can be moved around. That you are a person, you have feelings, you have a background, you have a life, and you would like to be accepted for that and what you bring and who you are. And so you may have had trouble seeing yourself as a gem, but looking at all your facets, looking at where you are, I think it would be very important for you to work on your self-worth, self-image, work through the overcompensation that you have done, and make sure that in the future you can just stand boldly in yourself without having to cut others down, because other people may do that to you, but it's not necessary for you to do it to them. So I'm going to hold this up for you so you can read it. I'm going to flip this over. You can see it. And then this is what I'm going to pull from and just ask the questions. And then I'll pull from the Queen of Swords, and it's usually just 1 or 2 sentences from that one. I'm not going to read the book for every one of these. That would be way too much. So Green Geographer, some of the questions. Okay. Questions. What guidance do you look for on your journey? What does this relationship say to your inner self? And the Orphan. What signposts can you see around you? I think reading the room, the emotional room that you're in. How do you stay in tune with yourself? Pretty straightforward questions. And Queen of Swords. Which is, where you at? Where you at? Okay, Queen of Swords. Alright, this one is like pretty long. Of course. Keenly aware of multiple perspectives, the Queen of Swords ponders each issue from many angles before making a decision. She has perfected the art of choice in the face of infinite options. Once her decision is made, she acts justly and swiftly. Her intention is to balance opposites and to create harmony in all matters within her jurisdiction. The difficulty inherent in your current situation is the difficulty making your decision. You are still in the pondering phase of your question. The key to right action lies in understanding all sides of the issue. After you have carefully considered all possibilities, make the choice that best accomplishes your intention and acknowledges the intentions of all people involved. So yeah, and that is really where the tongue part comes in. Making sure you're not so harsh with other people, making sure you're not so cutting with other people. Understand that yes, people dish it. No, people can't take it. And, you've been in that position too. So don't extend it. Because I think doing that will also extend the battles that you have with other people. And it'll always just be like a shitstorm that everyone keeps bringing up. In my personal life, people have done that. And it's really annoying to kind of keep going back to that. And it's just like with this circle here, like these circles, it's a cycle that you don't want to continue. So in 2023, your womb space, working through the vengefulness, working through the orphan, working through your desire to lash out at others, to hurt others, to harm others with the words that have hurt you, and find some sort of peace and reckoning and boundary for yourself so that you can stand in your own light and shine without overcompensating. So thank you, Pile 1. I hope that you enjoyed this reading. Take care. All right, Pile 2, the prayer. So the prayer seemed pretty good. You may have some intuitive hits. You may have a connection with the divine. You may get more into your divine path, or more may experience more divine connection, more divine communication. Your body may be a little bit more in sync with itself, and so this may be a more healthy womb state for you in 2023. So let's put the cards out here like I did the other one. We have hummingbird, very colorful. They match, the other pile match too, with the colors and the colors. So there's that. We have the 3 of Swords. We have the Burial Ground. Interesting. We have Extremes. Interesting. We have Joker. And we have Gold Physician, Hippocrates. Interesting. So you actually may be working through loss in 2023. Your wound space may be processing loss. So it could be the loss of a relative, the loss of a friend, the loss of a relationship, loss of control even. There may have been just a lot of stuff that you feel like you couldn't have control over. You may have had to, like, with this hummingbird, kind of find the sweet spots where you could. Whenever you came upon a sweet spot, you were really, really grateful. You were really, really thankful for it. You've had to bury a lot of things. You may have had to bury a lot of things in your mind just to get through the day. You may have had to put aside a lot of things. You may have prayed a lot in 2022. You may be praying a lot in 2023. You may have had to deal with a lot of flitting from thing to thing with this hummingbird, moving from thing to thing, and I think you may not have been able to just fully process things. It could be relationships. It could be getting cheated on and having to move through that, getting cheated on, and then like a series of events happening to where, like, you get cheated on, you have to process that. Someone gets sick, you have to process that. You lose your job, you have to process that. Someone breaks into your car, you have to process that. And it may be like all of these losses that are adding up. And extremes could be also pushing you to the extreme, to your limit. You may have gotten really sick. You may have had specifically like a lot of ailments in your chest when it comes to like your heart. You may have had a lot of migraines, mental anguish with this 3 of Swords there. You may have had to start over a lot with this here. It may have felt like you were, I know this is not a Rubik's Cube, but it may have felt like you were trying to always solve a sort of puzzle, trying to put things together, always feeling like there's many opponents and different faces and a new day, different shit kind of thing. And it just may have been a year where you had to start over a lot last year. And this may be a continuation of that. A lot of movement happening, a lot of ups and downs happening. I think that the benefit is that you do have prayer here in the hummingbird, which means I think you have the ability to stop certain things if you want to and move from one thing to another. I do think that the experiences that you have had can be enlightening, and they can help you, and they can stop you from going to such extremes if you would let it. I do think there may be a pattern of emotional extremes that you're working through within yourself, or the not getting things fully done. Procrastination, but not really procrastination. I guess shiny object syndrome, like, ooh, shiny, 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 shiny. This could be if you did experience some sort of cheating or something like that, something that has come up as a cycle over and over and over for you, either on your end where you're being cheated on, or either on their end where they're cheating on you, or your end where you're seeking a lot of experiences with relationships and not really deepening anything. It could be because of a fear of getting hurt, rejected, of starting over, of truly learning to start over, and having to put things to bed, right? Having to put things to bed. The amount of passion that you have to start something new, to go deeper with someone, could be extremely high for you. You may not be a very lukewarm kind of lover, and so there may be just a fear of how passionate you can be. I think that you have the propensity to maybe show several faces that are not yours. But it's kind of funny because it's like you're praying for newness, rejuvenation, and I think there's some things that really need to get put to bed, because this is a pretty warm spread, right? Like you got gold, you got reds, you got oranges, and you have a little colorful, and then this blue here is really weighing it down. And so there just may be, I think if you also have dealt with people with like really high sex drives, but in a really detrimental way, as in like they couldn't control it, or they weren't channeling it just into you, there just may be a fear of you having to put all of your energy reserves into one person based on those experiences. It could also be that you are forced to have to put your energy into one thing, right? So this is about womb space, but to me, your womb space also kind of reflects the energy going on around you, and so this is a larger picture, because this seems kind of heavy in comparison to everything else, right? It's the only like really blue card. Like, yeah, there's some blue here, yeah, some blue here, but there's blue here, but it's the really like the big blue card, you know? I do think there's a scared of passion, so you may run away from it. You may pray for something and then run away from it. You may pray for it and then realize that it's a lot more involved. There may be just a higher risk involved in it, what you're praying for, right? What you're praying for is so linked to your happiness and what you want and what you think you want and the idealized version, but that's not necessarily the right word. It's so integral to who you are that anything that goes off kilter burns your sense of, it's like a death almost. Anything that puts you off kilter really damages you. So you may be really sensitive. I'm gonna see what this is. Love. So you may be, let's do this. Yeah, you may be afraid of how passionate love can be, because being so passionate about love causes you a lot of anxiety. It causes a lot of issues that may be buried to come up. Heartbreaks and stuff like that. There may just be a real fear of letting yourself give into this passion and then ending up back here and then having to bury this relationship and having to move on to it, right? And asking God for strength because you're too weak to move on and you can't figure this shit out, and now you gotta start all over with this Joker, and it's a lot going on here. There's always been a lot of reaching for help or needing help, and you may be tired of needing help all the time to rebound from relationships, to, you know, to pick the right one, because with this hummingbird, you're picking the wrong ones, and you're just like, I need help, one, or you're just kind of like, I'm tired of always needing help with relationships. I'm tired of my shit sucking. I'm tired of having to start over. And so you may be fearful of letting yourself fully come into that passion with someone else because it would require you to potentially go back to this space. It doesn't mean you will, but potentially going back to this space, and that could scare you. So it's kind of heavy in that way. So I'm going to hold this up for you. This is the card. And I'm going to hold this up for you so you can read it. Maybe a little closer out now. Okay. Then we're going to read some questions from here, the book here, and we're gonna do. So the John D, the Gold Physician, is, and it's just the questions that I'm reading. Gold Physician, the questions around this. When was the last high point in your life? Okay. How much do life and work contribute to your personal growth? Who or what fills you with the greatest delight? Are you a leader or a follower? So there's that. And Three of Swords. Three of Swords. Are you too fixed in your decisions? Remember that there is more than one way to get where you want to go. So love doesn't have to be the one narrative that you keep praying will rewrite itself in a more positive light, correct? You want something new, you can have something new. And, you know, maybe if you're going to pray in a different way, do a different prayer. Shit, pray to a gift from God. I don't know. But I think there is like a desire for something new, but a fear of that passion completely overtaking you and what that will mean and what that will lead. And you may just find that you're way more passionate than you thought. Like, you know, you may consider yourself a very mild person emotionally. This reading is not me. A very mild person emotionally, but it could just be because you've shut off a lot of that as a means of your prayer. You wanted more stability and you pray for that, and as a result you just kind of buried more things. And as love comes through, it awakens a lot of things, and you may be just scared of where that will leave you. You may be the person who falls in love and they just get obsessed and go mad. You're scared of that. You're scared of how far and how passionate you can go. You know, maybe with this card over here, how not dehumanized, it's not that, but how more instinctual, animalistically you become, right? What starts off as just like a human interaction becomes far more animalistic, essentially, but far more animalistic is in getting to your base, your core being. And if you're someone who wants to think of themselves as more spiritual and above that, this may be very hard for you, right? And so maybe the ultimate prayer for you is to get back down into the 3D earthly senses. So there's that, and you may be afraid of that with this burial ground. Because maybe you feel the density of that reality as opposed to the weightlessness that is experienced when you're solely pursuing spirituality as opposed to the mundane matters. And love is a mundane matter, but it is also very spiritual. And so connecting both worlds is something that's very important for you. So that's what I have for you, Pile 2. I hope that you have enjoyed this. And I hope to see you in another pick a card. Take care and be safe. All right, bye.